cruising down 19, yeah, so it was an eventful morning getting here. This is a great part of Pittsburgh. Not as familiar with this as, sort of closer suburbs, Mount Lebanon, and so it actually was fun getting lost because I got to see some of the beautiful houses in the mountains back here, so it's really a thrill to get to meet with you. How many are from the Peters? Okay, Cannonsburg, I saw a few, Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, okay, great. Anybody from the city? Okay. No?
Just part of the year I'm downtown.
Okay, all right. I live on Mount Washington, and I lived on the north side for many years, so I've never really gone much further than maybe a mile from the heart of the city. I'm not moving into town, though, because I feel like I'd be at work all the time. I mean, I need a place to go home to. So commuting out this far, many of you actually work in town and drive this distance, because that's a hike. When I wanted to find out a little bit more about what you do when you go on vacation, because you're talking about staycations today, and basically people don't seem to think about their own hometown as a place to go on vacation. Anybody ever done a staycation, stayed at home but visited like you were away? Anybody actually ever stay in a hotel during a staycation? Okay, great, good, because that's what we like. We like people who stay overnight. We love that you want to do all the things in Pittsburgh, but it doesn't really feel like a vacation until you go and stay somewhere. And we'll tell you a little bit about some of the places that you can see and stay and things that you can do. I really want to thank Margaret and Ann and Sharon for helping me this morning, and Margaret did a great job of getting me organized for this today. So Margaret, thank you very much, my dear. You're the best. Also, we've got some students here helping. Harrison's taking some photographs in the back. We've got Sydney and Carly in the back this way doing video. And Cindy's going to be my helper. She's been dimming the lights and working the bags. And we're going to have a raffle at the end this afternoon, or later this morning. So if everybody got a raffle ticket, I hope. If you didn't, there's some still up here. We have some Pittsburgh prizes to give away, and a couple tickets to the Washington Symphony too. So make sure that you have those. As Margaret introduced me, I'm Tinsy Labrie. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Visit Pittsburgh. I've been with Visit Pittsburgh since 1999. I started the Cultural Heritage Tourism Program at Visit Pittsburgh, which was really about getting people who come to Pittsburgh for adventurous travel, where they like the arts, they like history, they go to shows, they go to museums. And eventually we realized that all tourism to Pittsburgh is basically cultural tourism, because we have such great amenities here. That we sort of merged all of our tourism marketing together under one roof, under the marketing umbrella. So I'm the VP of marketing. And really, I'm the lucky one that gets to market Pittsburgh to the world. And it couldn't be a better job. I keep thinking one day they're going to throw me out, and I say, you're going to have to tear me away from my computer to let me go, because I just absolutely love working here. My company's been around since 1935. You may remember it as the Greater Pittsburgh Convention and Visitors Bureau, the GPCVB, a mouthful. Nobody could remember who we were, so we had to change our name back in '06. We changed our name to Visit Pittsburgh. We were originally in '35 part of the Chamber of Commerce. So in a lot of places where tourism has grown, initially you begin as the Chamber of Commerce. So when you hear it's a Chamber of Commerce day outside, which today isn't really one of those, blue skies, beautiful day, that's because we were all chamber people. And we broke away and started our own pretty much back in the 60s. In Pennsylvania, the legislature provided support for a hotel tax, which could be added on to everyone who comes to the region. Everyone who checks out of a hotel pays an additional 7% tax in Allegheny County. So if you've gone to a hotel and said, my room rate's only $59, and then you get your bill and you go, what's all this stuff? That's hotel tax. And most areas collect tax. It's now sort of the way of the world, all over the world. And that tax becomes what we use to remarket this place and other places to visitors. You don't see a whole lot about our materials, and you don't see much about Visit Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. You probably see my boss, Craig Davis, real handsome guy, gray hair, salt and pepper. He's only been at this job for about a year, almost 2 years now. And he's really our spokesperson. He's an East End guy. He doesn't live in the city. We're not mandated to live in Allegheny County either, to tell you the truth. We are not part of local government. We're not part of Allegheny County government. We're not part of city government. We're an independent 501c3 nonprofit, but we get our funding through, probably 80% of our funding comes from this hotel tax I mentioned. We're also a membership organization. We have about 600 members who find value in reaching people who come here for, whether it's business, conventions, or leisure travel. Now, mostly what we're going to talk about today is the leisure travel side of things, because we're not trying to get you to come to a convention. You don't really have much of a choice when you go to a convention. A meeting planner pretty much decides that for you, and you go wherever they say you're going. So Visit Pittsburgh on the convention side of our business really markets to the meeting planner. On the tourism side of our business, we market to people who are looking to go somewhere for fun. And we don't really pretend that Pittsburgh's that 2-week vacation. Remember those when you went away for 2 weeks? We're really more like a 3-4 day weekend getaway. And I'll tell you a little bit about who the people are that come to visit us. We're about a $10 million budgeted organization. Probably 3/4 of that money goes towards sales and marketing. My department is probably more marketing and advertising oriented. The convention side of things is more sales oriented. We have guys on the street who go out and talk to meeting planners. My area is more involved with research and advertising and promotions. And we have about 50 employees, 2 that are off-site. One is in Chicago, one is in DC. Those are places where meeting planners tend to be, so we like to have them off-site. The reason that tourism matters. Okay, wait, did I not have this on? There we go. This is our mission, dedicated to generating convention and trade show. You can read along. The reason that travel matters so much to Pittsburgh is it's a $5.5 billion industry, not million, but billion. And people don't realize that. You live here, you don't realize people walking around here have come here to spend their money on lots of things. From transportation, shopping, dining, their accommodations obviously, and recreation. Recreation includes a lot of what we're going to talk about this morning. So who are these people that are spending money? Now this is the leisure traveler. This is the yous out there that are coming in. And to tell you the truth, we don't really market super far from Pittsburgh. We tend to stay within a driving distance because 70% of our visitors drive here. We market to the Cleveland, Columbus area, Buffalo, Erie, a little bit over towards State College, Harrisburg, down south toward Weirton, but it's mostly Ohio and New York. And it's a matter of budget, really. For hardcore paid advertising, it's still pretty expensive to advertise, particularly in print, so we're doing a lot more digital advertising, which gives us a much more targeted approach to reaching out to people. But these are the people we're reaching out to, so we know a lot about them. They visit because it's easy to get here. Their average age is about between 40 and 50. They like to eat and go to museums. They like to go to historic landmarks. They like cultural amenities. They spend about 3 nights here. 53% of them are women. Women typically make the travel decisions, right? Does that happen in your house? Yeah. And the incomes probably are averaging a little over $75,000. So these are travelers. You know, these are people who like to see new things, do new things. One of the things that we've managed to do, and this is really an active pursuit of ours at Visit Pittsburgh, is to bring in really big events, at least one big event a year. And we go way back before 2009, but the 2009 event that I put up here, G20 Summit, that was really the big sort of game changer for Pittsburgh. Most of you probably, when you heard G20 was coming here, if you didn't know what it was, when you heard what it was, you went, why is that coming here? And so did a lot of people who came here for it. Journalists giggled in Washington when they announced that Pittsburgh was going to be the place for the G20. But we really realized that this was the opportunity to tell Pittsburgh's story, the new Pittsburgh, to journalists and leaders from around the world. And we got about $100 million worth of free advertising from the G20, and it was all positive. Those writers came here to write terrible things about riots and whatever, but they really didn't have that much of a story to tell. What they told was our story, how Pittsburgh, as Margaret mentioned, has gone from the industrial place that it was to what it is now, green, lean, and mean. We had the U.S. Women's Golf in 2010, the Winter Classic, One Young World. That was a big event bringing in young people from around the world, to future leaders, future G20 leaders probably. The Frozen Four was last year. That group, if you know hockey people, they drank out our entire city. On Monday after this event, there was no booze in Pittsburgh. I'm telling you, you could not get a drink in town. We weren't prepared for that. And the next one, the gymnastics championships, that's this summer. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but I don't think they're as big a drinkers as those hockey people. But you mentioned what we call buzz, Margaret. This is one of the bigger accolades that we've received lately. This is when National Geographic named us one of the best places in the world to visit in 2012. So we made a huge fuss of this because we were the only American city on the list. And we were on the list with people like Colombia and Dubai, and the only other region in the U.S. was in California, was the Napa Valley. So this was a real coup for us. The local writer, Christine O'Toole, that wrote this piece, she's fabulous, she's a friend. She really captured what Pittsburgh's all about. We love the photo. It is one of those things that people think of when they think of us, but they don't realize that those steel mills aren't here anymore. Here's some other things that they say about us. Most livable, as Margaret mentioned, at least 3. You remember back in the 80s when we were named the most livable city by Rand McNally, and people were like, what? But we continue to be named that. And Nerd Wallet, which another one of those nerdy, says we're a great place for activities, recreational. Forbes thinks we're very romantic. Independent Traveler says it's a place that you might not have thought of, but you should. And what's interesting that people really like about us is our quirkiness. You know, when you travel, people like the weird these days. Not totally weird, but what's unusual? What makes Pittsburgh different than other places? And these are some of those fun facts that, you know, when you get on the Just Ducky tour, they tell you all these things. We have 446 bridges. I hear it's more than any other city in the world, including Venice. I think they must be counting those little footbridges too, but 446. We have the new Great Allegheny Passage that was finished last year, connects us to Washington, D.C. That's very unique. The Robotics Institute at CMU, first in the world. Stainless steel was invented here. You know the radio broadcast, phonograph records, KDK radio, the first ball game, the first church service heard over the air. And we are Hollywood on the Mon. It was where Hollywood and movies began. We're here in Pittsburgh. And this is a picture of when Batman was here. And then there's our crazy food. And I'm going to talk about dining in a little bit. And you notice the Primanti sandwich isn't up here. And I know that the Primanti the family that owns Primanti's is from out this way. And we love Primanti's. That's the one thing every time they talk about Pittsburgh, they talk about our sandwiches with fries on them. But these are some of the other foods that are from this area. So people kind of dig this stuff. It's sort of the pop culture of Pittsburgh these days. And we take advantage of that. We talk about that. We do a lot of research. We just did some branding research. Any of you in marketing or advertising, you've heard of branding. You know, everybody thinks that means like a logo and a tagline, but branding is really about the essence of this place. And we learned from people who are traveling here that they really love the fact that we have this industrial heritage. You know, a lot of times in our business, we're sort of, ooh, we don't want to talk about steel. You know, that's gone. People they think it's still here, and it's not. It's still what we are. It's the essence of where we came from. And we use that essence, that history, to be more welcoming to people, to be friendly to people. That's the one thing we hear about Pittsburgh is in every bit of research we do, how nice everyone is there. And so we use that as part of a part of our brand. People love our natural beauty. They love our sports teams, or they love that we love our sports teams, or they hate us because we love our sports teams. Depends on where you're from. So we've talked about what gets people from the outside to pay attention to Pittsburgh. This is what we're talking about today, staycations. This is a new word, came about around, I don't know, middle 2000s. It was, people have always sort of stayed home to do vacations. I know we used to ask friends back when I worked at the Symphony, where are you going on vacation? Oh, I'm just staying home. So we call that Porchville. And I'm going to Porchville. This is like going to Porchville. A staycation is a combination of vacationing and staying in one's hometown. It could be, you could stay in your house, or you could go to a hotel or a B&B or a resort. So we're going to talk about staycations. And let's start with the easy stuff. What's free? Now, I'm going to talk a lot about things that Pittsburgh has to offer. A lot of you are going to know these things. You've been to them. You've heard of them. You might learn about some things you haven't heard of. I don't have a lot of hidden treasures, but there's a few in here. And these are some of those hidden treasures that you might not be aware of. All of these are available on our website, and you can learn more about them. And I'm going to give you the name of another website that has much more detail on things that are happening. I do want to read you one little letter from a friend that, I don't know if she heard I was doing this today, but last week I got this email from my friend Angie Stengel. Angie used to work for Girl Scouts. She's now the executive director of the American Society of Regional Anesthesia and Pain Medicine. Angie's from Mount Lebanon. She says, I hope this finds you well. My family vacationed in Pittsburgh this weekend, and we had a great time. We commuted by T to the Sheraton Station Square, which became our home for the weekend. We ate at several restaurants in Station Square, took a Just Ducky tour, rode the Gateway Clipper twice to 2 different baseball games, visited Carnegie Science Center and Sportsworks, and hung out in Market Square. My husband and I Facebooked many pictures, and all of the Pittsburghers enjoyed following our staycation. Several families from church and work are now planning their own vacations in Pittsburgh. I thought you'd like to know that there is a great opportunity to promote the city to those who live in the immediate vicinity. I live in Mount Lebanon. So Angie just did what we're going to talk about. She did it last week. And anybody can do this. It's pretty simple. When you plan your vacation, your yearly vacation or just weeks, little breaks away, what do? You look for deals. You ask your family. You want to try something new? Do you want to do what we always do? These are questions you can ask when you're here in Pittsburgh. And some of the things that you could do are free. These are art, music, attractions, and general. And you can see all of these. We have the gallery crawl, which I think was last night. Not the greatest weather for a gallery crawl, but we do those 4 times a year in the Cultural District. You walk around, look at art, talk to people. It's very fun. Frick Art at noon, public art tours, glass blowing at the Pittsburgh Glass Center, galleries like Wood Street Gallery and Space Gallery downtown are open, free. Jazz Live is done at the Cultural District on Tuesdays. It's a free jazz offering in the winter. It's inside, and in the summer they have it out in Katz Plaza. Those are fun. Banjo Club has one night a week that you're free to go watch their rehearsal. It's a live rehearsal. The opera does an opera program at noon during the times when they're showing an opera. WYEP has a free program. And then these are attractions you can get into for nothing. Allegheny Observatory, there's an architecture tour. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The Fort Pitt Block House has always been, that's the oldest building in Pittsburgh and the county. And it's 250 years old this year, but you can take a look in there without having to pay. The old Allegheny County Jail, if you want to feel what it was like to be in jail back in the day, you can do that down at the old courthouse. Soldiers and Sailors is another great place that you can get in free. Some of these places ask for a donation, and you should feel, how you feel about that. You don't have to give, but if you would, it helps support them. Also, free wireless downtown. You can get free wireless internet for two hours a day. You can ride the T for free in town. There's a free ride zone. There's a map of it in our visitor's guide. We'll talk about that. And all the trails, you can walk from one end of town to the other, along the rivers, in through town. And on-street parking on Sundays. I think that was a holdover from, and I mentioned Radical Days here. This is the Regional Asset District provides once a year RAD, they call it RAD Days, at various attractions. The zoo, the History Center, the Science Center. Most of the attractions that are funded by RAD, that's that extra 1% tax you pay in Allegheny County. Those stay open and are free to the public once a year. It's usually in the fall. And then the architectural walking tours, which are fabulous. We're going to talk about those in a little bit as well. The other thing people come here for are events. These are like the G20 events, except they're not conventions. These are big events that we have regularly, either annually or every few years. The Three Rivers Arts Festival is coming up in June. The Jazz Live International Festival is coming the 22nd, 21, 22 of June. That's in the Cultural District. We're bringing in a band from Puerto Rico called El Gran Combo. They are, quote, the Beatles of Puerto Rico. And there's 19 of them. Not like the Beatles, there are only 4. So to bring them in is half a plane's worth, but we're really excited about it, inviting them to Pittsburgh. The Constellation Senior Players Tournament is at Fox Chapel Country Club in August. So there's other things, the EQT Regatta Restaurant Week. Any of you ever partake of Restaurant Week? We do 2 of them a year. The summer one is August 11th through 17th. The theme is world-class dining. This is one of the great opportunities to sort of test out restaurants that you might not have tried before at a fraction of the cost. The Vintage Grand Prix, another one that comes every year. Same with the Irish Festival, which is always in September. And then this P&G Gymnastics Championship. This is a pretty important event. It's one that we've worked on for quite a few years to get it here. It features the best male and female gymnastics, and it determines the U.S. champions and national team for the World Championships. And it's the first time it's been here since 2001, and only the 4th time since the 70s. So it's a big deal. Now this is kind of, I call this a convention, because it's a convention and an event. They are having a trade show at the convention center for all people who are into gymnastics, and then they're having the championships at Consol Energy Center. So there'll be gymnasts and their families all over the place, and that's the weekend of August 21 through 24. So come into town and check that out. They'll be doing like yoga in the morning, and it's all going to be all about healthy eating and healthy little lifestyles, and you can see how cute they are, and it should be a great event. I'm going to ask you if you would mind taking out this little piece out of your goodie bag. This is our visitor's guide. And I mentioned earlier, this is kind of our Bible. If you were walking around with a website about Pittsburgh, it would be this. We were saying earlier how we still like printed pieces. If you still like to flip through and look at things and smell the ink like I do, this is the piece for you. We do this every year. It comes out in January. It's the annual guide to what's happening in Pittsburgh. It's also really more about what are the amenities of Pittsburgh. This is a piece that when people call us and say, I'm thinking about coming to Pittsburgh, I don't know, I'm not sure what there is to do there, we send them this. The reason that this is a little different than other publications, it has all our hotels offered in here. So the hotels are really the first step people tend to want to make. Once they determine that they're going to come here, they have to get a hotel room. And so this features hotels as well as attractions. We're going to, as we walk through some of these things, I'm going to point out some of the pages in here. So when I talk about events, they're on page 5. That's sort of the rundown of the annual events, the biggest events that are happening in Pittsburgh this year. We've already gone through quite a few of them, the parades and the soup contests and things like that, but we just had the Silkscreen Film Festival begin last night. Art All Night is this weekend as well. So you can see some of the big things that are coming up. This is a good thing to follow along if you're into going to events, or you have people who are coming to visit, or you want to take a staycation based on one of these events. I can see that I got this Constellation Senior Players dates completely wrong. They're June 26th through 29th. So this is really a good guide for you. I want you to flip over to page 7 though, because we're going to talk about tours. We were talking about tours earlier. Somebody asked about Berg Bits and Bites. This is one of the newer tours, and as I say, I've been with Visit Pittsburgh for 15 years. So, as tours happen and we start to see more of these kinds of things, we realize that we really are a tourism destination. When there are companies that can make a business out of taking people around and showing them Pittsburgh, we know we're in the big leagues. So these are some of the tours, and you can read through them here. There's every which way to do a tour in Pittsburgh, on foot, by bike, on a Segway. You can see. Has anybody ever ridden a Segway? Is it scary? No? Because I feel like I would do one of these routines on it. But one of the girls in our office did a video on it, and it was really great. But pedicabs, has anybody ever taken a pedicab where they, it's like those are fun.
I know the owner.
Oh, you know the owner, Paul Kletter.
Yes.
Yep, great guy. Great guy. He's opening a hostel down in Southside. We're really excited. He's one of those young up-and-comers. There's a few of those in town that start businesses, and they know what they're doing. Yes?
I received a question about the gift bags. You were going to make an announcement.
Right. We ran out of gift bags. We brought 40, and there's more of you than that. So I will send some gift bags over to the library when I get back on Monday, and we'll have them here for you. I have one extra one here that I can give afterwards. I'm using it. It's kind of like my little cheat sheet. But yes, and there are we're going to give out some raffle prizes later. But the gift bags, we will definitely make sure that everybody who wants one can get one. Okay. Yeah, and please, if you have questions during this, please yell them out. If you have things you want to say, that you've been there, or you've done that, or you'd like to try something, let me know. There's so many different tours, as I mentioned. Steel Heritage, the Rivers of Steel does some tours of what our steel heritage is about. You can go down to the Eliza Furnace. There's a tour called Babushkas and Hard Hats. They're all listed in here, so it gives you a good idea of. There's a lot of companies that are doing this now. Pittsburgh Transportation Group has actually opened their own version of a tour company. Lenzner Tours, you've probably heard of. They've been around for 75 years. Molly's Trolley. Most people know them from weddings, but they are a great tour opportunity. Gateway Clipper, if you haven't done that, take that on the river. And they explain what Pittsburgh's about from the river's point of view, as well as Just Ducky. Somebody here. How many people have done the Just Ducky tour? It's very popular. Did you quack at people along the way? Yes. Yes, absolutely. That is such a success story. These two guys, brothers, came in, bought one amphibious vehicle, next year 2, next year 3. Now I think they have 5 or 6 vehicles, and they are packed. I mean, I see them coming down the streets and they're quacking at everybody. It's a great thing. There's a new tour this year called the Pittsburgh Brewery Tour. Wiggle Whiskey, Narcissi Winery. See, I'm kind of on a drinking thing here. Party Peddler. That's a drinking. You pedal. You go different places. You drink. You pedal. You go. It's crazy. And then, as I mentioned, the Segway in Paradise. So lots of different ways to do things. But one of the ones I want to focus on, besides the Berg Bits and Bites, is the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks and the Office of Public Art. These are 2 opportunities to do your own self-guided walking tours. This is the little booklet that goes along with the public art tour. I'm going to pass this around, and we have these at our visitor center. This is a tremendous, if you love art or you just love walking around town and sort of discovering things, this little booklet is for you. And they're free at our Welcome Center. And it is a very well done piece. You can also take guided tours of public art. And the Office of Public Art, which is run through the city and through the Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council, they do tours of all different parts of the city, particularly focused on the art. Yes?
Where's the Welcome Center?
We have 7 of them, but the one that's easiest and has the most stuff is downtown in our office at 5th Avenue Place. So the Highmark building, but there's one at the airport. There aren't a whole lot out this way. The Duquesne Incline has a welcome center. Green Gear's Pedicabs on 1st Avenue has one. There's one in Southside. We need to probably open one out this way. We're looking to open one in the East End this year. It's just a great way for you to be able to pick up materials. But the one in 5th Avenue Place is also a gift shop. So some of the stuff that I'm going to give out is things that we sell there as well. So let me tell you about Berg Bits and Bites. Sylvia McCoy, she's a Pittsburgher. She's from out this way. Does anyone know Sylvia? She started this business a few years ago, just one food tour. And that's the one I'm going to talk about. It's the Strip District Market Tour. She does this Fridays and occasionally on Mondays and Thursdays. She can also schedule them for private groups. They start at 10 o'clock and at 1:30. They're about 2 hours. It's a walking tour. They meet in the Strip District at St. Patrick's. That's the church where you go up to the altar on your knees. Ouch. And the tour takes place rain or shine. She says to wear comfortable clothes because you're going to eat a lot, particularly on your feet because you're going to walk a lot as well. It's about 10 people per tour. They do take larger tours, but they ask you to get in touch with them first. And the food is what you taste as you go. She stops at different places in the Strip, and she does a food tasting. There's water provided, and the tastings are served as part of the tour. It's $37 a ticket, and you can purchase them online from Berg Bits and Bites. Sylvia also now has expanded. This has been very successful. She has tours now of Brookline, Bloomfield, Dormont, and Lawrenceville. And I think she's added more tour guides. It's a very, very successful tour program. And if you like to eat and learn about Pittsburgh food, I also met somebody new last week who does an Italian garden tour walking tour. And so there are new products coming on constantly. The one that is brand new this year is this Lights Camera Pittsburgh. This is being offered by Pittsburgh Transportation Group. There's a picture of it in the guide. It is back behind the scenes, location shots. They're going to go to 31st Street Studios in the Strip District, show you where movies are made in Pittsburgh. It's such a big business. If you see Dawn Keyser, she was on WQED the other night talking about the tax credits that the state gives for movie making. It's a huge business for Pittsburgh, and it puts a lot of people to work, and it's fun to see when the movies come out. So this tour will take you around and show you some of those locations. All right, we're going to segue, to, come on, baby. There we go. Sports. Now, I can't give a talk about Pittsburgh and not talk about sports, right? We couldn't get real people who are on the teams to pose for us. So we found models that we thought kind of looked like Troy Polamalu, a young lady, Sidney Crosby. The pit cheerleader is really a pit cheerleader. This is the ad that's on the back of our, oh, actually, we've changed the people at the cheerleader this year is actually cheering. This was last year's ad, but it is what we are. We hear a lot about this when we do research. I told you, people either love us or hate us for our sports teams, but people realize that we have a passion and we're proud of our sports teams, from the Pirates, Penguins, Steelers, to the Riverhounds, to the Power and the Pride, and all the college and universities. And one place you can go to really understand all of the history of Pittsburgh sports is the Western PA Sports Museum at the History Center. Fabulous place. Take people there. It gives them a really good understanding of why Pittsburgh is a city of champions. And we couldn't talk about sports right now without talking about our Buccos. It is one of the best ballparks in the country and named so in many different places. This is Travel and Leisure magazine, Fox Sports as well, Sporting News, I think Margaret said, as well as ESPN. You go to a game, it doesn't really matter what happens on the field, at least not right now, and it's a great experience. This has been a boon for us from a travel standpoint because visiting teams, fans come here, and they spend a lot of money. So it is one of the things we encourage you to think about doing this summer. We also market Pittsburgh as Kidsburg. I don't know if you realize how many family attractions, you might know the big ones, the zoo, Kennywood, Children's Museum, but there's quite a few of them. And we actually at Visit Pittsburgh package this into a bundle of goodies. You can buy family attraction tickets at half price. You can get a hotel overnight, and for every overnight that you book on our website, you get a free Get-Go gas card for $25 per night. Yes, sir? Yes, that's this one. That's that one right there. Yeah, the Great Hall in Heinz Field and PNC Park, both great tours. And sometimes they'll even let you go on the field, at least get your foot near the grass if you're lucky enough. But Kidsburg is a program that if you have a family or kids, grandkids, and you want to sort of do this staycation, it's a very inexpensive way to do it, and you get some free fuel as part of the deal. These are the places that are included in the Kidsburg package: the Science Center, the Aviary, Children's Museum. In the middle is the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, Phipps Conservatory, the Incline, the Zoo, Kennywood, and the History Center. So you can pick from any one of these. You don't have to buy all of them. But the prices are very, very, very reasonable. It's, I think, one of the few discounts that Kennywood gives that's pretty deep. And all of these places have some great shows this summer. The History Center just opened a new show called The Treasures of the Steamboat Arabia. Some really interesting stories. Anybody read, this was in the paper the last few days. It is, if you love history, this is like hermetically sealed history. This is a boat that left Pittsburgh filled with all this merchandise and supplies for people out on the frontiers. And this, I guess, happened a lot back in the 1870s, but it sunk on the Missouri River, and when it sunk, it basically stayed there for 130 years till this family found it, dug it up, and all the things that they dug up were all from Pittsburgh. Pickles, dishes, shoes, clothes. So the History Center has this all on display now until January. So I recommend you take a look at that. If you love history and you love Pittsburgh stuff, it's really, really a great show. The Carnegie Science Center has some obviously one of those great places, and you know most of their, the Requin and the Sports Works, the planetarium. They have a couple great shows. The Robo World and Bikes are both really great. These are for your kids in the family that are kind of techie, sciencey kind of kids. The OmniMax show right now is called Jerusalem. It's fabulous. Phipps Conservatory. I was asking, has anybody been to Phipps lately? And have you been to the Center for Sustainable Landscapes? That's the new building. This is one of the big stories right now. We get a lot of publicity about our sustainability and how we've greened Pittsburgh from the smoky city. This building has, it's about 20 different things on here that they do that's really unique. It makes it the most sustainable building in the world. Rainwater harvesting, a green roof, a wind turbine, natural ventilation, minimally conditioned air, ventilation lagoon system, constructed wetland. I mean, if this is your thing, if that turns you on, I suggest you take a trip over to Phipps because it's really, really worth seeing. The Aviary has some new shows this year. A Canary's Call, which is a new show, which it's weird. It's called Canary's Call, but the thing that's really cool about it are these bats that they brought. Has anyone seen this yet? These are Malayan flying foxes, but they're actually these really creepy looking bats. It's part of this show at the Aviary. Aviary also does these daily flight shows in their Flight Zone Theater that opened a few years ago, which are fabulous. They change often, so if you are a frequent goer to the Aviary, and that's one of those jewels of Pittsburgh that it's been here forever. Oh, I did it when I was in 4th grade. Well, do it again because it's really changed. It's a great place. They've redone a lot of the exhibit areas. It's worth taking a look at. Carnegie Museum of Natural History. They have a great program this year right now called Race. Why are we so different? It's very interesting. It's a perspective of unprecedented examination of race and racism in the United States. A little heavy, but very, very, very interesting. Children's Museum has an exhibition now called XO, Love Letters. Teaches kids how to write a letter the old-fashioned way with paper and pencil. And who would you write to and what would you say? Using traditional hand lettering, and they teach kids how to write a letter, perfect. The Pittsburgh Zoo, obviously one of the most popular places in Pittsburgh. They just read today, they got a new baby seal that they found, and isn't that, they do such great work. Kennywood, nothing new at Kennywood, no big new roller coasters or anything this year, but always fun and lots of food. We love those fries. We talked about the steamship Arabia. Here's some other things that Pittsburgh is wonderful at. We do good arts. Arts are really important to us. It's the legacy of our industrial heritage. It's what our forefathers left behind for us. It's the Andy Warhol's 20th anniversary. You remember when, would you like a glass of water? Okay, well there's some water right here if you'd like. 20th anniversary, it opened May 18th, 1994. I don't know, I remember standing in line waiting to get in that night. They're doing a show called Halston and Warhol. It's an interesting look at fashion and art at the same time. The Warhol Museum's a jewel, another one of those, been there, done that, went there in 1995. Go back, it's changed. They have a new director, they've redone the entire hanging and they made the shop, my favorite part of the Warhol Museum, even bigger. So take a look, it's a new Andy Warhol Museum. I could mention 17 other great attractions that are visual arts. The Carnegie Museum's obviously, the Frick, one of the best collections around, obviously. The Mattress Factory, if you love contemporary art, they've got some really great pieces. The Toonseum, has anyone heard of the Toonseum? That's right on the main drag on Liberty Avenue. It's a museum of cartoon art, and the guy that runs it is a cartoon artist, but he's collected all these beautiful pieces. It's one of the few places like it in the country, so he's got great reputation around the country. The galleries at Wood Street and Space, and then the outdoor sculptures, as I was mentioning earlier. We also do performing arts really well. It's one of the top performing arts centers in the country. The Cultural District is 14 square blocks. We have 16 downtown theater companies that play in the Cultural District. There's 10 performance spaces in that 14-block area. But it's not just limited to the cultural district. There are other companies outside of downtown, Irish and Classical Theater, the City Theater, the Kelly Strayhorn Theater, and great shows that put on by people like the River City Brass Band and the Pittsburgh Symphony, who come out of downtown and do programs all over the place. Not to mention all the regional theater. I know you have theater out here as well. And those all are great companies that send visitors into the city as well, to the shows like this Broadway series and CLO. Those are sort of the ones that tend to get more of the attention, but there's some really creative things going on. Pittsburgh Irish and Classical Theater may be one of the more creative theater companies. They play in the Oakland, at the Stephen Foster Memorial.
What did you say the name was?
Pittsburgh Irish and Classical Theater. They play in the summer, which is kind of unusual. Most performing arts start in the fall and end in the spring. When visitors are here from May until August, there's not a lot for them to do for the performing arts. CLO is one, and Irish and Classical Theater is another. This is some of our history and heritage places to visit. I mentioned the Fort Pitt Blockhouse and the Fort Pitt Museum, 250 years old. The History Center I mentioned earlier, the Frick Art and Historical Center. Not only does the Frick have great art, but they have this fabulous house, the Clayton. Has anyone been to Clayton? Gorgeous any time of year. Usually at Christmas time, it tends to have more of a visitation because they really decorate it. But great place to walk around, yes?
Name the next restaurant.
Yeah, the cafe is great. You make plans to do that. Make a reservation because sometimes it gets pretty busy in there. They're doing a whole new renovation as well. They're adding a new welcome center, and they're expanding their visitor services. So all these things continue. They've been here for a long time, but they continue to get better and better. This is one of our new hotter products in Pittsburgh, is outdoor recreation. And my boss, who was the old boss of Visit Pictures, used to say, oh, we don't need to market those people. They never spend any money. They don't have a place to put their wallet because they're all wearing spandex. But I will tell you, these people spend money. They've spent a lot of money on their bikes, and they spent a lot of money on their equipment. And they like to do all the other things that people like to do in Pittsburgh. Sure, they'll ride the rivers, they'll take the trails, they'll walk, they'll hike, they'll bike. But in the end, they still like to shop, they still like to dine. There's some new things that have come on, this treetop zip line at a place called Go Ape. Anyone done that?
North Park.
In North Park?
Yeah, I have.
That scares me, but I think it's probably really cool. And this Venture Outdoors is maybe one of the best outdoor recreation organizations around. They are the ones that rent the kayaks, and that's very fun. And you can do that right under the Roberto Clemente Bridge by PNC Park. So outdoor rec is huge. And now this is the ultimate spot. Everyone who comes here does this. Either this or the Mon Incline. But I know these guys, this is a nonprofit that runs the Duquesne Incline. They track their riders. They get over 500,000 riders on that incline every year. It is an amazing thing. It's one of those things everybody thinks about when they think of Pittsburgh. If you haven't been on it lately, it's still fun. I still see kids that cry when they get on it because they think it's going to drop like a roller coaster. Don't cry. It takes 3 minutes to get down there. But the reason they come up and down is because of this. And now we have the fountain at the point back. Great to walk down to the point and see the fountain. We wish we had that rubber duck all year round too. Boy, that really brought people in. But it is one of the top most beautiful places in the world to see at night, according to USA Today Weekend Magazine. And we're so happy also that we have lots of other downtowns besides just downtown Pittsburgh. There are 90 neighborhoods in Pittsburgh. You know some of them. There's some up here I'd never heard of. I've never heard of Ferrywood or Esplin. Have you heard of Esplin? Yeah?
Why isn't the outlook from Esplin, Elliott, more
Marketed.
yeah.
You know,
That
it
is
takes.
fantastic. It's the best view of the city.
See?
And Pittsburghers
Don't even know it's there, right? And part of the thing is we need partners. Like there has to be somebody there who's passionate, who wants to work with us and wants to get visitors there. Some neighborhoods don't want visitors. You know, I don't want anybody. You know, I don't want anybody coming up here. So, you know, it has to come from the community. It has to build up from the community. I live in Mount Washington, so obviously big tourism, but I live in the back of Mount Washington. Chatham Village, which is kind of a, a little enclave, and we don't really want visitors back here. But it's one of the great architectural gems, and so, we're always encouraging people to come back and see what's back there. But yeah, there's some unique little spots in town. My friend just bought a house in Greenfield. What a view! Like, I never knew that was up there. So there are little jewels. If you, get your car and drive around, you'll see some of these things. What's neat about most of them is that they own their own little downtowns, places where you can shop and walk around and get to know the people, and everybody's really nice. Let's talk about day trips for a second. Obviously, we're not just about Allegheny County. We're talking about the Pittsburgh region. People who visit here don't know the difference between Greene County and Butler County and Beaver County and Indiana County and Allegheny County. These are some that are closer out this way: Meadowcroft Rock Shelter, Old Economy, which is in Beaver County. Great places to visit. If you love history, the Rock Shelter is a jewel. It's one of those things most people don't know anything about. It's one of the oldest finds of human habitation in the North American continent.
Where is the rock shelter?
It's in Avella, which is not far from here, right? It's Washington County. And they also have this historic village, which I've never been to. I've toured the rock shelter, which you can see, it's over here. People line up to go into this. It's a dig. They're actually digging for remains and the remains of habitation, particularly Native Americans, back from, I think it's like 10,000 years ago. Other day trips. Who knows that Lawrence County is the fireworks capital of America, because they have like 10 different families that do fireworks besides the Zambelli. So they've taken advantage of that. They market themselves that way. They have a great fireworks festival every year. They also have Amish in Volant. Amish are still very popular with visitors. We get a lot of questions about the Amish. These Amish are a little bit more staunch than the Lancaster Amish. They're a little bit more shy about publicity. But they do welcome you to their community because you come in, you spend money, you buy their stuff. There's an Amish community as well as in Indiana County. They drive a different color buggy. That's how you know the difference. I learned these things. Laurel Highlands, great place for outdoor adventure. The Ohio Pile, the Great Allegheny Passage, one of the great new additions to Pittsburgh. That connection between now Pittsburgh through the Laurel Highlands to Cumberland, Maryland, all the way down to DC. Any bike riders in the group? I've ridden a bike twice in the last 2 years, and both times I fell and broke my wrist. So I am not riding the Great Allegheny Passage. I was training so that I could get on that's not going to happen. But biking is one of the hot things in Pittsburgh right now, because you can ride 24 miles of bike trails in downtown. You have trails out here too. All of these trails are starting to connect, so you can get anywhere pretty much without going on a road. The whitewater rafting, always a little scary for those of us who are not adventurous, but fun. And then, of course, thank God for Frank Lloyd Wright. I mean, why were we so lucky to not only get Falling Water, but Kentuck Knob, and also now you can actually stay in a Frank Lloyd Wright home. It's called the Duncan House. It's near Donegal. I just saw last night online, it's like $199 to stay. And you actually are in a home that was designed, it's one of those Usonian homes, in something called Polymath Park, which is was a design community of Frank Lloyd Wright. Either he designed them or some of his students designed. Fascinating. So part of that whole immersion into Frank Lloyd Wright, you can do this in Laurel Highlands, not that far away from us right now. But one of the most fantastic buildings in the world, right here in our doorstep. Let's talk real quickly about some of the, and Margaret, how am I doing for time?
Good.
Okay. Hotels. Okay, so I want you to go stay in a hotel because I want you to spend that 7% tax, because 2% of that 7% comes back and helps us continue to market Pittsburgh. So if you're going to do a staycation, do it like my friend Angie did. Drop your car, take the T, find a hotel, get around town, stay like you're going away. It'll make you feel like you've really taken a break from your day to day. There are so many hotels in Pittsburgh. I have some statistics here. Pittsburgh actually is one of the hottest hotel markets in the country. Hard to believe, but it's because people are staying in hotels. We are the highest occupancy of our competitive cities. These are cities like Memphis, Baltimore, Charlotte, Detroit, Milwaukee, Indianapolis, Cleveland. We rise above all of them, yes.
Do we have bed and breakfasts here?
We do have bed and breakfast, and there's a bed and breakfast group that markets themselves collectively. There's quite a number. On the north side, there's a couple of beautiful ones. And they're sort of hidden in neighborhoods, a few in Shady Side, there's one in South, there's one in South Side, there's a few out this way as well. But you have to dig for them. You've got to, in Google, you have to really look, bed and breakfast of Pittsburgh. And there is a group. They don't really market themselves individually, it's more as a collection. Yes?
There's a mansion on Fifth Avenue, it's marvelous.
Yeah.
They have a Sunday brunch.
Yes.
It's marvelous.
Yeah, B&B, I mean, I'm not a B&B guy because like in the morning I don't want to talk to anybody, right? I'm not good at like 7 o'clock in the morning when everybody's cheery. But if you are and you like that kind of lifestyle, there's some really great opportunities here. We don't market bed and breakfasts as much as we should. They're actually marketed better out in the countryside because there's more of them. They're more quaint. Not that there's anything wrong with our B&Bs. They're absolutely beautiful. But it does take a certain, I think one of the ones that we don't really refer to it as a B&B, it's more like an inn, is the Priory on the north side. That place is very popular. That's a family that knows how to do hospitality. And it is an option away from the usual typical hotels. I wanted to ask, how many people, can somebody give me an idea how many hotel rooms you think are in the Pittsburgh metro area? Just to give me a shout out. How many rooms do you think there are in Pittsburgh? How many? 25,000 hotel rooms in our metro area. Yeah. Downtown, there's 4,500 just in downtown. In Allegheny County, there's 16,000. So we've got a lot of hotels. You don't realize it because they're hidden away in little places, but they're filled. It's 68% occupied across that whole metro area. So that means every night there's somebody staying in those hotels. And they're spending money, and there's a bunch of them coming online in the next 2 years. There's 13 hotels being built right now, one in Mount Lebanon, I noticed. And when they are finished within the next 2 years, there'll be 2,000 more rooms to add to the. So we're talking about a hot market for hotels. Anything from Embassy Suites to Kimpton Hotels. There's a Ace Hotel coming in, a Hotel Indigo. There's some real neat boutique hotels happening. There's a lot going on in the hotel industry, and it is worth keeping an eye on because those places tend to bring good deals with them. You can find deals. I will say hotel rates in downtown, if you've ever tried to stay or you're putting somebody downtown, they're kind of high. They've gone up a lot in the last few years, and there's one reason for it, the Fairmont Hotel. When the Fairmont Hotel came in, they brought a higher rate, and everybody else in town was able to raise their rates because of it. They are one of the great hotel chains in the world. We're so lucky to have them. They're great partners, and they have a good product, and they know what to do with it. And it's helped the entire downtown community. You know, sometimes you think, oh, they're competitors coming in, they're going to ruin our whole. No, they've made the place a better place.
They have a great restaurant.
They have a great habitat. Yes, one of the best. Yep, we're going to talk restaurants here in a minute as well. So hotels, here we talk dining. Now, I was going to give you a rundown of some of the crazy new restaurants that are in Pittsburgh. They got crazy names, and I can't remember them all, and you probably have heard of some of them. Here's a little list of just ones that are named after food. There's Dish, there's Cure, there's Salt, Spoon, Legume, Plum, Toss, Toast, Tonic, Tender, Burger. Okay, then there's the ones that are named after places: Habitat, Porch, Eden, Dinette, Lamont, one of the great all-time ones. Then there's the ones that are all named after numbers. Tavern 245, Route 174, Taza 21, Lot 17, 11, 9 on 9, Chow 2, and E squared. So there are a lot of them. And then why are there a lot of them? Because people are going out to eat. And visitors are going out to eat. That's one of the number one things they like to do when they visit. So great restaurants and our good friends, the Primanti sandwiches, thank you. Great Grand Concourse, kind of went down for a while, back up. Still has that great Martha's Vineyard salad that you remember from your days of courting. And then Conflict Kitchen, which is a very unusual place in the East End. They feature food of nations in which the U.S. is having military conflict. Very, very, but the food is tremendous. It's a walk-up place. There's not really a sit-down. It's called the Conflict Kitchen.
Where is it?
It's in the East End near in East Liberty. It's very cool. Shopping, okay. Who doesn't like to shop? Well, visitors love to shop. It's, for cultural tourists, it's the number one thing they do. Yeah, they like to go to museums, but they like to shop. And we have every kind of shopping imaginable. Malls, outlets, you know, high-end men's clothes, boutiques, candy stores. It is a shopper's paradise. And one thing that we really market a lot is that there's no tax on clothes. Yay! You ever get nailed when you go to like New York and you buy something and you go, what? There's tax on clothes? It's a big thing. If you ever see people go to Grove City and they're bringing their suitcases with them because they're coming mostly from Canada, where tax on clothes is ridiculous. So they make a killing when they come down here, and we promote that. We also promote the drinkers. This Wiggle whiskey, I'm not a big alcohol fan, but they say this stuff is really good. They tell a great story too. They tell the story of the Whiskey Rebellion. You can do tours of Wiggle whiskey. They've actually grown so much they're moving into a new space over in the north side. This is on the south side. And well, as I say though, they're moving to the north side, and it is very, very popular right on Penn Avenue. And then there's the Pittsburgh Winery, never been there. Penn Brewery, they've been around a while. A lot of new spirits and wineries. These are their tours, and you get to drink while you're there.
We got a new one over on Baptist Road. It's a new brewery that's just coming on.
Ah.
Raleigh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, see, and we learn about these things. We have one girl in our office. She gets to talk to all the restaurants. She knows every restaurateur. She knows every place to eat. If you want to know, I was like, hey, Colleen, should I go to such and such? Because she knows. And these are, again, all coming on because there's business there. And then there's nightlife. You know, we all like to, after we've eaten and shopped and drank, and then we can go party all night if we want. Restaurants, bars, and then, of course, the place that never closes, Rivers Casino, and you have casinos out this way, too. Casinos tend to not market to visitors. They tend to market more regionally. They're not pulling in people from, because gaming is everywhere now. When it was unique, you know, Atlantic City was sucking us all in, but now it's practically all around us. So Rivers is a really good partner, but they're not really pulling in people from outside the region. Transportation, how to get around when you do your staycation. You can be like Angie and take the T and use that. It's free in town. You can ride all over. You can go to the north side. You can pick it up right here and head into town, and you don't need your car. When you get into town, you can rent bikes. My friends at Golden Triangle Bike Rentals be happy to set you up on a bike. Pittsburgh Transportation Group, as I mentioned, have all different ways of getting around. We have some of these new ride-sharing programs. I bet you guys in the back might have heard of some of those. It's, oh God, Lyft and Uber. Yeah, the one with the mustache. Have you seen? Yeah, well, they're trying to work out a way to make it so that there's an even playing field, because they're not really regulated under the PUC like the cabs are. So there's got to be rules to this.
They gave out over 100 citations.
Oh, okay. Well, I have friends who do it because it's you do it through your cell phone.
It's in different cities, too.
Yeah, it's all over the place. But we're new to it, and we're trying to figure it out. And Bill Peduto is pro rideshare, so we're gonna keep going. Get your GPS. Mine didn't work today, but you can get anywhere now. You know? Yes.
I don't know if everybody knows it, but if you're on Medicare, your Medicare card gets you on the T for free.
Ah.
Everywhere.
Same with the Inclines too, because they're both run by the Port Authority. So it's easy to get around. You know, oh, there's no cabs. I don't know what you can get around. Okay, guides and maps. These are some of the things that we gave you. This map is Oakland and downtown. All the attractions are listed. It's pretty. How many people are map people? I love maps. I can't go anywhere without picking up a map and like, what direction am I going in? And then I'll walk out of the hotel and be like, I have no idea where I am. But our city's not the easiest place to get around, because it's got that weird, triangle thing happening. But this map is like, it's my love and my pain, because I always get something wrong. We just printed the new one. I put the T-stop in the wrong place. Oh my God, I have to reprint 150,000. It happens. It's the very detailed little things. But, with all this online stuff now, these are going away as well. But you still need to pull that map out when you're walking around in town. Play Magazine. I'm sorry that this is 2 days away from being useless. This was the January through April issue. But the new one will come out on Monday for May through August. This piece is really for once you've gotten here. You know, once you've decided you're coming, what am I going to do? What's going on? What are the shows? When is the Benedum Center open? How do I buy tickets? It's really sort of the little Bible for the arrival. You know, you made it here. And these are everywhere. You can pick these up. We'd be happy to send some over here to the library regularly so that you know, your folks can pick them up. But these guides, and this is our brand new map, which again is just coming out. That's the one that I misprinted. Yeah, that's my life. VisitPittsburgh.com, that's the other side of our lives now too. Well, all these printed materials are now instantly available, all the info, plus, all available online and through a mobile website, visitpittsburgh.mobi. We don't have an app, and all you youngsters in the back are like, no apps, because we can't figure out what our app should be. Most of our colleagues around the country have done apps. They're very expensive to do, but they don't really do anything fun. They basically just replicate what you already have online. We're trying to figure out what would be a fun app for Pittsburgh. So if you have any ideas, please send them our way. But this is really, you know, the most up-to-date events are on here. If you have events and you want to publicize them, put them on this calendar. You click on events, and then it says submit an event. You don't have to pay anything. We put them up, and everybody looks at that events calendar. That's a thing both Pittsburghers and visitors do because it's very up-to-date and very, very reputable. We get 1.3 million visitors to our sites. We also are in the social media world. We have a digital marketing person. He's my counterpart. He just does digital marketing. All the Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest, and we have them all. Facebook.com/VisitPittsburgh. YouTube, we have 36 videos, lots of views. We're on everything else. Findery, I don't even know what that is. Vine, you guys could give us a lesson in the back. These are our welcome centers we talked about. This is the new one on Carson Street at 11th and Carson. That's the one at the airport. How many people knew we had a welcome center at the airport? See? That's like 2 out of all of you. Okay, how embarrassing. It's been there since the day the airport opened. It's underneath the escalators. Nobody knows it's back there. Well, we're just about to move it out into the world where when you come down the escalators to get your bags, we'll be right there. So be on the lookout. It should happen by the end of May, just in time for summer season. We're so excited. The woman who runs our welcome center at the airport's like, God, I get to talk to people. Because she sits back there and nobody talks to her except ask her where the bathroom is. So the welcome center up in the top corner in the left there, that's the one downtown. Lots of goodies, and we're going to give away some of those. So we have 7 of them, and they're all different and fun and cool, and that's where you can pick up stuff about Pittsburgh. They're all listed in the very first page of the visitor's guide. It's the one right across from the duck. No, next page. Right here. And all the hours are there. And you know what? You're making me think that we need to get something more out this way because we really don't have a presence in the South. If you're into telling other people about your travels, these are some ways to do that. TripAdvisor, WikiTravel, Yelp. Anybody look at Yelp when you're looking for a restaurant? It's very good. Now, I've heard it's kind of fixed, and I've heard all kinds of weird stuff about it. But I still, if I need an idea, that's where I go. And it has everything. Every restaurant rated, what people say, what food is good, when their hours are, where it is on the map. I mean, it's a really, really good source for finding out about food. All right. Questions? Yes, Sharon. Beautiful place.
And one of them asked us, one of the gentlemen that was working behind the counter in our disconnected communication, asked where we were from, and we said Pittsburgh, and he went, Steelers!
See? See? No matter, if you have anybody on Pinterest, there's a book just with where the terrible towel has been. And it's all over the world. I mean, it's been in, you know, on top of the Eiffel Tower, you know, under the ocean. I mean, it's a thing. So, yeah, it is one of those things that people equate with us.
When we're on vacation and the waitress, and this has happened many times, say, where are you from? We said, well, where are you from, Pittsburgh? And she said,
How'd you know? How'd you know that? Yeah, it's great. And you know what? The other thing, you can be anywhere in the world. I'm telling you, anywhere in the world. And what do you see on every table in every restaurant around the world? Heinz ketchup from Pittsburgh.
Right.
And they are like, what? You're from there? Yeah.
Is that tour still available?
You know, you can't go in anymore, but they still do tours. They have a room when you walk into the factory. You can still see, and they sell merchandise. I gave you some little shoestrings from there, but yeah,
They're gonna retain the name.
yeah, they're going to keep the name. Yeah, I mean it's a tradition. Yes.
I don't know if you were familiar with the Billy Graham Association, but Franklin Graham is coming into the Sol Center in August.
That'll be a
And
big.
that'll
draw.
I think 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Wow, and every night, is it every night?
Oh, yeah.
He does like what Billy used to do.
Yes,
That's
yes.
cool. And there, people will come from all over for that.
We talk about your hotel.
Yeah, right. And sometimes that stuff happens and we don't even aware of it because it's sort of grassroots, it's underground. They promoted themselves. They don't really need us to help. And people call and go, what's going on in town today? And we're like, I don't know. Oh, it's the Billy Graham Crusade. Okay. Yes.
Well, the NCEA was just here too.
Right.
National Catholic Education.
Right. They were just here this week. Nuns everywhere. And I'm telling you, those nuns can drink. I walk by Sharp Edge, I'm walking down, I look in and there's these habits and they're all throwing back steins of beer. I was like, cool. Yeah, the restaurants down in that area they loved the Catholics. Yes.
This is kind of a weird question, but I end up doing a lot of things on my own because I just can't get anybody to go with me. Are there any places, say like Point State Park or something like that, where it's not safe to be as a woman alone? The trails?
No, we find that people rate us a pretty safe place. There's not a lot of fear, particularly in downtown, particularly on nights when there's a lot going on. When it's a quiet night, like a Monday night, I come out of work sometimes late and it's like, this is kind of creepy because there's no one around. It's not a city where a lot of people live in town. That's changing. So, but I've lived in the city basically my whole adult life, and I've never had any real problems. Now, of course, things happen. But I don't think there's any place, like the Point, I think it closes like after 10 o'clock. I don't think you can really like hang out down there late at night. The Point is actually one of the safer places now because they finally have rangers that are patrolling that area. When they put the new fountain in, they hired a staff to take care of it, which is really smart. And that's all through the state. So
I was down there this whole week because my husband was doing the NCEA. And so I was doing a lot of walking in the city, and I wanted to go to the park, but I thought, maybe I'm
no.
sure,
Yeah, it is. When you get out by the fountain, you're really far away from the city, but you really feel like you're out, where the explorers left from, and that's where Lewis and Clark, that's where it began, right there. It's beautiful, and it's worth taking a walk out there. It really is. You go under that Portal Bridge, and people think that's kind of creepy. It's not. It's not. It's really very safe.
Why is it that they can't seem to hold the department stores down?
Well, you're competing with you guys. In the suburbs, you can park for free. There's a million different stores to choose from, and it's become an issue for our downtown partnership. They're the ones that really deal with the businesses, but they've made a real effort to try to, if you give people who are living in town, they're going to need to shop in town. We're trying to get a grocery store in PPG Place, finally, after all these years, because people who live in town don't have anywhere to go get groceries. I mean, they're not going to trek down to the Strip District to get their bananas. They need a place to go. So I think it's just a matter of volume, and at Christmas time, you notice how they always make parking free, because we can't compete with you guys out here. Yes.
If you haven't done it, the walking tour of the architecture is one of the greatest things to do. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Of the city. They take you in the buildings and you see domes that you've never seen before. It's just it's an amazing tour.
They say in Pittsburgh, most people forget this, but you need to look up.
The architecture is
Fabulous.
yeah,
They do a tour now. It's the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks. We did it last year, and it starts up by the William Penn and ends up down by PPG. And it's a full couple-hour tour. Go on Pittsburgh History and Landmarks website. They list all their tours. They have free ones you can self-guide or take a guided tour. And mostly these are architects who have to sort of speak our language. They start talking about stuff, and we're like, wait, talk like we do. Because we have saved, and thanks to Pittsburgh History and Landmarks, saved a lot of our architecture in this city, because it could have been urban renewal and everything would have been gone. So we're really lucky that way. Thank you.
Are the rooms at the cathedral publicized a lot?
Yeah.
That's a fantastic
Yeah,
I've talked to people who haven't been to Heinz Hall.
right.
I mean, not Heinz Chapel.
Heinz Chapel, yeah.
I mean, that's a fantastic.
Oh, and they're right next to each other.
And you give a docent to tell you about the glass and everything.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal.
Yeah, those are great tours. You must be into architecture. Those are great tours. So, if I haven't spurred a little bit of your interest in staycationing, think about it and come up and see me after. I have a couple business cards here, but you can always get in touch with me through Visit Pittsburgh.